This is the Spurs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the San Antonio Spurs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
About as perfect of a debut you could have for the San Antonio Spurs tonight in Dallas, a 125-92 thumping of the Mavericks behind an all-time performance from Victor Wembanyama. Welcome in to the Spurs POSTCAST on Locked On Spurs. Of course, your first listen after every game, every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I would like to hope that this is just as much a pleasant introduction start to the new season for us, to you at home as well, because this is the inaugural Spurs POSTCAST that we're doing. My name's Casey. That's all you need to know, because I defer to a guy who is pretty well known around the San Antonio community for sure. NBA champion, San Antonio Sports Hall of Famer, the best player in UTSA basketball program history, all-around good guy, Devin Brown. Here, after every game, each of us, the two and I, were thrilled, we're elated to get this party going in a season that's going to be filled through equally as much excitement throughout the year. Started off on a high tonight. Devin, welcome. Elated to be doing this project with you tonight and going forward this year.
Casey, thank you. Very excited to be here. Good to get back in the fold of being involved with the Spurs on a daily basis, and I'm excited for the season. And what a night tonight. Big night tonight.
That's in a literal sense, in a figurative sense, and many of senses, I guess, if you will. So let's waste no time. Let's get right into it. 125-92 this evening on the back of Victor Wembanyama's monster showing. I want to make sure I get every single stat here right, because it is, we know he's been an anomaly. He is an anomaly. And it just kind of feels like one of these things where there's something else and it just kind of writes itself. So the final number looks like this: 40 points on 15 of 21 shooting, 15 rebounds, along with 3 blocks, a plus 31 in 30 minutes of work. Welcome back after 8 months. It's easy to sit here and wax poetic about what this guy has done, but it just feels like, Devin, tonight, again, another chapter after Victor Wembanyama's book, obviously year 3. There's plenty left to go, but this evening, it's something that we're going to be talking about for a long time in San Antonio.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Victor, give him credit. He got in the lab in his time off, but he was very efficient in what he did. A lot of back-to-the-basket moves, using the glass. We've seen that for years with San Antonio. And he was just, he took the shots he wanted to take tonight, and that's why he had a lot of success.
Yeah, and I think that is something that you've heard a lot around here in Victor's infancy so far in San Antonio. These first couple of years, people love to just kind of defer back to, he's 7'5". Get right in the paint, get your butt in the paint, take advantage of the fact that you're that tall. And that had become a little bit of the narrative during that time, during those first few years. But I think tonight, and you said it very well there, it felt like this is one of the few times that there was a real asserted effort on him to do that. And it didn't even particularly matter who was guarding him, because this is not a nobody who was guarding him. This is Anthony Davis, who's drawing that assignment for most of the night. Derek Lively, one of the premier young defenders in the sport, and he's just working through these guys. And it felt like tonight there was an element of no fear. Not that Victor really tends to have any fear, but it just felt like a different Wemby tonight.
No, and sometimes you're gonna have to excuse my language on this show, because I get fired up. I was fired up during the game. But Victor was a pissed off dog, and that's the way he played. And if he can do that with the other contributions and the things that the Spurs have done with their roster, this team's going to be very good. I know it's game 1, but, like I said, Victor, he determined what he wanted to do tonight. It wasn't a lot of threes being fired up, some of the one-legged stuff you've seen in the past. No, he got to his spot of what he's been working on a daily basis, and he was very, very effective.
Yeah, very efficient, collectively all the way around. And this is something we're going to hit on a little bit more, because as we know, Wemby's going to get the highlights. He's going to be the lead on SportsCenter tonight. He's going to be all over social media. He already is. But collectively, from top to bottom, you don't put up a 125-92 victory without a little bit of balance. And there was well, I guess a little bit more than a little bit of balance. Stephon Castle, 22 points, 7 rebounds to go along with 6 assists. Devin Vassell was in the starting lineup today, of course, with De'Aaron Fox out of the starting lineup because of the hamstring situation. Jeremy Sohan as well. He puts up 13. Dylan Harper in his debut, 14 points, make that 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on 7 of 14 shooting, a majority of that coming in the second half in a battle with him, of course, and fellow rookie Cooper Flagg. That's something we'll touch on in a little bit. But you and I were texting during the game, and I think kind of what we kind of agreed upon was that, especially, you know, when you're with the dynamic of not having De'Aaron Fox around a little bit, was that there's going to be a lot of nights where that offense in that offense in the half court is going to stagnate. Victor's not going to go up there and put up 43 and 50 and
right.
What he will do is play defense, and what the team will do as a whole is play defense. And it felt like that really kind of set the tempo this evening. Dallas held under 40% shooting, never really in the second half did they gain any kinds of offensive rhythm. And it certainly seems that defense right now, it's cliche, but that's going to be the sticking point of what's going to determine the long-term success of this team, Devin.
Well, I take you back to our conversation a couple of days ago about how competitive it's been in the Spurs practice. I don't have to be there to realize that when you have a roster the way they do, it's going to be very competitive. And you saw that tonight. I thought Stephon Castle played, very well. And, Dylan Harper, showed some signs late. But what about a guy like Keldon, a guy like Vassell, where these guys are, getting paid a lot of money? And Vassell had a little run going there in the second quarter. And Keldon, that's just the way he plays. He's the dog. He's a hard worker. He's all over the glass. He's going to give you everything that he has. And so when you see this together, and then you have Victor play like that, and like you said, some nights Victor's not going to play like that, but you have enough now in the system where you're going to be able to get this done and maybe take some of the slack, from Victor when he doesn't have one of these Superman performances.
KJ, 11 points off the bench, 25 minutes, 5 of 6 from the field to go along with 5 boards. So that's a point that we're going to hit on in just a little bit. The idea of building around Victor, and this is a very good start to doing such in the new season, getting acclimated, getting the chemistry, that and a little bit more coming up on the other side of the Spurs postcast right here on Locked On Spurs. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about a few folks that make this show special. And in this case, PrizePicks in particular. Now, the best part about PrizePicks is that every day, we're out there, we're making these decisions for better or worse, good or bad. And a lot of the time, it just kind of reverts back to sports. The good thing with PrizePicks is that being right's actually going to get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of football season this year with PrizePicks. I love the more or less player projections, Josh Allen's passing yards, Saquon's touchdowns. I'm a Raiders fan, so Geno Smith, I'm taking the under on whatever it's been this year. PrizePicks, the app, use code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $50 for your first 5 Locked On NBA prospects. And as they say over there, it's good to be right. Hopefully you get your money back and then you give it right back to the system. And that's kind of how it works in this world. You go in and you're paying rent. But that's where BILT comes in. And BILT's changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay through rent or pay rent through BILT, you earn flexible points redeemed towards hundreds of hotels, airlines, future rent payments, and it's good for the neighborhood. San Antonio, we're all about the community, so fantastic way to do exactly that. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood. Going to joinbilt.com, Locked On NBA /Locked On NBA, joinbilt.com/Locked On NBA. And finally, all this money talk. It's kind of like a hard reality of life. We don't like talking about it all the time because we got so many accounts going on, things like that, and you lose track of it. I'm guilty of it too. 401k savings, all that stuff. But that's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together. It's clean, it's easy, visual dashboard, all the skills that you need to understand. A guy like me, I need it. I understand it, and Monarch helps me out with that big time. Again, use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarch.com. You get 50% off your first year. Monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNBA to get you that 50%. And be sure to take care of all your money and all the things that are important to you. All right, on the topic of money and what's important to the San Antonio Spurs, money in a literal and figurative sense. Tonight was interesting in this standpoint that it felt as if they were going into a situation where without De'Aaron Fox, without Jeremy Sohan, they were going to have to be a little bit creative around the dynamic of what they wanted to do going into this new team. Because in a lot of respects, last year, they didn't particularly have that. And with Victor out, of course. And what I like seeing so far was the Dylan Harper aspect of it. And I think getting him acclimated as well. Because the first few minutes, first quarter and a half that he was in, he looked like a rookie, Devin. He looked like a guy who was not doing that before.
The nerves were in there. Yeah, the nerves were in there. But he kicked him out, and he ended up playing well. The
final stat line for Harper, again, reads 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 dimes, 7 of 14 shooting in 23 minutes. The opposite side of things, of course, Cooper Flagg was the name on the marquee, along with Wemby entering to the evening. He goes for 10 points, 10 rebounds, 4 of 13 on field, 32 minutes. Held scoreless in the first half, Cooper Flagg was. I'm going to deflect back to you because very few people can talk about the sentiment of being a rookie. Right. You have been in this spot. You have faced the bright lights. It's easy for me to go up here and say things like, exactly that. Like the stage was bright, you understand it. But for someone who's been in that spot, stepped on the floor for the first time, how does one kind of manage the jitters like that in your mind?
Well, it's very difficult. My first game, playing in the NBA, that was the first time, I had played in, front of so many fans. But I always looked at the game different growing up anyway. I never really tried to stare in the stands. So whether we were playing at St. George or where we were playing at UTSA or at the Frostbank Center, didn't really matter to me. But, a lot of these guys, nowadays, your Dylan Harpers, your Cooper Flaggs, they've played so many big-time AAU games, for them, it's like finally – we get to see everybody gets to see me play at this level. So, for both of them, I'm going to say, you look at the numbers and, they are what they are. But Dallas is trying to figure out with him, and they have a lot of time to do it. And same thing with Dylan Harper, because, once De'Aaron Fox comes back, you're going to have a good problem, right? That's another guy to throw in the mix. So you got time to figure this thing out, but I'm glad you got 2 more rookies that are going to be a part of the NBA for a very long time.
Yeah, Carter Bryant, we haven't even talked about him. He did get a handful of minutes in the first half, largely inconsequential. I know you were referring to Flagg, but this kind of sparks the Carter Bryant. Largely inconsequential minutes, got a few in the first half, did go scoreless in his 9 minutes of work. Looking ahead a little bit, you've been on teams that have started off hot, have won on opening night, have lost on opening night, have played poorly on opening night, have started off red hot the first few games. You've for better or worse, you've experienced a little bit of everything. When you have a strong start in just about every single capacity of the game, how does one kind of compartmentalize that a little bit? Just be like, all right, game 1's out of the way, now it's on to New Orleans. How does that, you get past that right away, do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a struggle the last few years, some tough times here in San Antonio. This, technically is 6 games in a row here, counting the preseason. And I had talked to you about that, and how going into this game, I didn't want them thinking just because it was 5-0, how this first game was going to go. Dallas was going to be ready for them. But I'm glad I don't, have to predict games, because the Spurs came out, did everything that they absolutely needed to do. Now, you're one of the coaches, with the Spurs, you tell them, congratulations, great win. and we're on to New Orleans. But in a sense, you have to be proud of how these guys came out and handled, everything that went into this game, a nationally televised game, everybody looking at what, Cooper Flagg was going to do. And they came out, and it seemed like the Spurs took that personal, and they had a great night. And now you go into New Orleans, their team is expected to do a lot this year. So it's going to be a great game, another great game, and another great test.
We can talk about the X's and O's, the guys on the floor, in my mind. Understandably so, those are the ones who garner most of the attention, right? But something I really liked was it felt with Mitch Johnson, it felt, and again, understandably so, it felt like it was always Pop's team, or it was still Pop's team, and there was just kind of a gray area whether or not it would truly become his team, and kind of putting myself, in his shoes. I'm sure that was, not frustrating, but there's a sense of anxiety. You're new head coach, you're filling in for the greatest of all time. You're not sure if that job's going to be a long-term thing, particular. They showed a clip on the ESPN broadcast tonight where he is kind of parallel to the classic "I want some nasty Pop" quote that we've been seeing for years. Right. And it's tremendous too early to say that this was Mitch's moment. I want some nasty, whatever. It was not that. We know that. But what I liked, and this was something we didn't see from Mitch Johnson last season, was that confidence. You talk so much of a player's confidence, a confidence from the coach that's saying, this is my team now, guys. This is my team. I'm the guy in charge. I feel good. You trust me. I trust you. Let's go out and do some things. And I thought I'm glad ESPN showed that, because that was, I think, a real kind of eye-opener for a lot of people here in San Antonio that, hey, different times. And it's a good start early with Mitch.
Yeah, so with me, the first, say 10 minutes of the game, I was going to watch the rotations and as far as, what players are going to be playing. And I was trying to see if that was going to be the same. Like if he's taking a little bit from Pop, but then he's putting his own little spin on it, type deal.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that I'm watching, but you can definitely tell that, he's been around Pop a very long time. And, the guys that are going to be on the floor and the guys that were on the floor, that got the ball rolling. Obviously, you have your Wemby, that's your superstar. But, I'm telling you, those guys that are around him, I think that they're starting to understand who it is that they're playing with, because not everybody gets to play with a Wemby. Not everybody gets to play with a guy like a guy like Tim Duncan. And if you don't take advantage of it, you're going to be somewhere else. And and I think back to, like I said, there's a couple offensive rebounds that Keldon Johnson just outworks. The Mavericks. It kept the ball alive, and he gets these and ones. And I'm saying, Keldon does Keldon just play this way? Or is he starting to understand what it means to put a Spurs jersey on? Because there's a big difference. That's
true. And longest tenured Spur here. And what I like what Keldon has done the past couple of years is, more than really the duration of his time here. You could tell he's a guy who truly embraces the role of what he is, whatever the role's been, because he's had just about every single one on this team. He's embraced it. He's done a fantastic job. All right. So before we get out of here, Spurs, of course, winners 129, felt like 129, 125-92 today, opening the year on a high now. Wemby 40 and 15 in the victory, about as good as it gets if you're a Spurs fan. Putting a bow on things, your overriding sentiment, your overriding thoughts from tonight, Mr. UTSA Hall of Famer.
My overall thoughts are the defense was tremendous. It was great. Need to keep that up. You're not going to get it every night, but when you have nights like this, it was tremendous. They during one of the segments, they said this at one point, the Spurs didn't have a whole lot of bench points. Seemed like they did, but they really didn't. But if we can keep the defense going and just supply that assistance to the big fella Wemby, I think we're going to be all right. And then Wemby, year 3, I see him taking off and, becoming a bigger megastar than what he is. And so we'll see, how he handles the next game. I'll be interested to see what kind of start he gets off into the first quarter. But for our opening night, big night for him and big night for the Spurs. And hopefully they'll be able to continue it.
Yeah, of course, now they try to find that momentum going down to New Orleans Friday night, 7:00 tip from the Smoothie King Center. Devin and I was going to say we'll be there. No, we will not be there, but we will be here with you after the game talking about hopefully a Spurs victory. I guess we'll find out when we get there. But as Devin articulated clearly enough, there's still a lot of work to go. Hey, we got one of these in the books, my friend. We feel good, right? We got 81 left, maybe more.
We feel great. A lot more to go. We feel great.
All right. It's all you guys checking in. Of course, as always, with the Locked On Spurs family, the great work Jeff Garcia does day to day. The everyday listeners, you guys make the show special, and we appreciate it. It's been all of your love and support that are the reason we're doing this now. The reason that we've been given the opportunity to expand our content, our coverage, because it's just good times to represent San Antonio's silver and black. So with that said, we're going to put a bow on things again tomorrow, Thursday. Are we almost at midnight? Oh, almost. Okay. So not technically tomorrow. Friday night in New Orleans, Spurs back in action, trying to get back and continue the good vibes. So for Devin, I'm Casey. Have a nice night, and we'll talk to you Friday.